Hi ladies and gents, Pond here with another video for Rise of Empires, Ice and Fire. Thank you so much for your previous likes, comments and subscriptions to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not click on that button and ring the bell so you can get notifications of whenever I'm dropping videos on the channel, which is daily. And now onto the topic of this video, and I'm going to be talking about evasion and dodging. So this is basically the same thing in the game, but once again the devs have put a couple of different terminologies, and you're going to see that in skill descriptions, which you can see above me here. Chance to dodge and be immune. That's from Skanda's 8th skill, and on the first 2 turns, whenever the hero squad takes damage, 70% chance to evade and avoid this damage. So these are the kind of skill descriptions we're going to see. There are multiple heroes in the game that have this ability, and let's have a look at them. So first couple that I want to talk about are the S1 heroes, Ebony Knight and Cincinnatus. Now both of these two have basically, it's the same thing, just their skills have 2 elements to them and they're kind of swapped around. Now I don't have either of these heroes in my main account, but let's have a look at Cincy first. So his second skill is a prep skill, so it is good in terms of it's more likely to action, and it says here each squad of our legion will be in dodge status in the first attack. So this is just going to provide you with that dodge element, that evasion, when each squad takes their first attack. So you're looking at about 3 elements of dodge there basically, and then the rest of it is to do with reduction of skill damage, and that's percentage related. For Ebony Knight, it's his second skill again, Blitz. This time it's a combat skill, so it's more vulnerable to being silenced. You're not getting a lot of silencing in S1, but it can happen. And this is going to cover basically for the first 4 turns. Every turn, squad with the least soldiers will receive less damage. And then the evasion part is also let one random squad have a 70% chance of getting dodge status. So that's for the first 4 turns. So there's a chance to have 4 different amounts of dodge, but it's only 70% chance. And what you've got to think about as well is that if that one random enemy squad, say, is the back row, and the opponent doesn't even launch an attack to the back row, then this dodge is being wasted. So it's not ideal. It's not going to be consistent. And the couple of battle reports that I've seen out of those first 4 turns, I was seeing like 1 or 2 instances of dodge occurring. So it's not very regular. Next hero is the S3 cavalry hero, Warlord. I do have him in my account, and Warlord on his 5th skill has this bleeding steed skill. It's a status skill, so it's going to be it's consistently available to cast in the battle. But as you can see from the description, on the first 2 turns, whenever the hero squad takes damage, 70% chance to evade and avoid this damage. So it's not guaranteed evasion, but it is covering you for the first 2 turns of every battle that you have the chance to avoid. Now, the whole thing with dodging and evading the damage is that obviously if you're not being hit, you're not losing troops. It kind of is a form of tankiness, isn't it? You're protecting yourself. That if you're not losing troops, then that's a benefit. They're still in the battle. They're going to last longer in the battle potentially. Of course, unlike healing, once you can lose troops and then get them back, but with this, it's preventing you losing them. So would I say that dodging is better than healing? I'm not sure, because again, it's going to depend as well on what type of attacks are you dodging. Are all your dodges just being used up on basic attacks, and you're actually only saving yourself maybe 4,000 troops? Well, nearly all the healing abilities in the game heal a lot more than 4,000 troops over the course of a battle. So that's just something to bear in mind when you're thinking about how effective dodge is. And with Warlord, you're commonly going to see Warlord in the Warlord Roku Living Saint combination, what's called the Three Sisters combination. So he is at the front row on that combination. So at least in the first 2 turns, he is going to be attacked a lot, particularly if he's up against, obviously, the Beast Queen / Brave Rosen Immortal combination, which is bombarding you with attacks in the first couple of turns. So the fact that Warlord does have dodge against that combination, it is good. But if you're using them Warlord in other defensive combinations later in the game behind Lawman, for instance, then how much damage is he actually going to be taking in the first couple of turns? This dodge might not activate at all. So it could be completely wasted. Just something to think about. Next hero we're going to talk about is Skanda, the SX4 footman hero. I do have Skanda as well. And Skanda on his 8th skill has a nice element of dodge here. So as you can read, it's called Daybreak, and it affects the front row of your legion. So on turn 5, this skill will remove friendly front row debuffs. And then also, when the front row takes damage, there's a 100% chance to dodge and be immune to this damage, lasting 2 turns. So your front row obviously is being impacted by at least 3 basic attacks each turn, and potentially some skill attacks as well. So in reality, there's a good chance that this Daybreak skill is actually giving you at least six instances of dodging for your front row. And considering at that stage in the battle, it can be a key change for you, having that protection on your front row. They're lasting longer, they're not collapsing. It's more, you can obviously attack more against your opponent, maybe even break down their front row. It could be the difference in winning the battle. So this is, and that's why it is Skanda's 8th skill, because it can be a key momentum swing changer in the battle, in this middle, in like the 2/3, 3/4 area of the battle. So this is a nice element, and as I say, if you're getting attacked a lot on that front row, then it's going to allow you to dodge a lot of that damage. So those are the first 4 heroes. Next up is Hunk. Hunk is the SX1 footman hero. He is, a bit of an enigma with this 8th skill that reduces the damage that is being taken on turns 1 to 6, and then it tallies it all up and gives it to you on turn 7. In most footmen, people don't like using him in most footman combinations, to be honest with you. You're not going to see him in any of the top footman combinations on the combination sheets. But he does have evasion in his locker as well. So his 2nd skill, head on, it's a status skill again. So it's a very consistent skill, but it is chance based. So when the squad takes damage, it will give you up to 25% chance to evade and immune to this damage. So again, what you got to think about is 25% is very low percentage for a skill to activate. And if you're putting Hunk on your front row, which a lot of people aren't too keen to do that, obviously, because if you put him on the front row, he is susceptible to a lot of that damage, which is then going to tally up and then hit you on that 7th turn. But if you did put Hunk on the front row, in theory, you're probably getting obviously at least 3 basic attacks per round. Plus, you're getting at least maybe 1 skill attack hitting that front row. So in theory, he might dodge 1 element of damage per round if you're getting 4 hits per round, if that makes sense, at 25%. But this is all chance-based. How is that actually going to happen? In theory, if it lasts until the 8th round, then he might have had 8 lots of evasion. So you might see this more frequently than the other 3 heroes that we've talked, even the other 4 heroes that we've talked about. And at least it is applicable for all rounds of the battle. But I'm not sure this is such a good skill. I guess the whole point is, though, that if you can evade, then you're reducing the amount of damage that is being tallied on that 7th skill. On that 7th turn, sorry. Next up, Cicero. So Cicero is another SX1 footman hero. I do have Cicero as well. And on his 8th skill, Curtain Call, it's a combat skill. So it's not going to be as consistent as these status and prep skills, because it can be silenced and suppressed during the battle. Now, this is going to give you a 50% chance to have the front row to have a 100% chance of evasion on the next 3 damage taken, lasting 2 turns. So it will cover 2 turns. This is pretty good. Like, if you think about it, 50% chance, there's a good probability that this can activate 4 times in a battle. It's targeting your front row, and then you're giving 3 evasions. So in theory, it can give you around approximately 12 elements of evasion in a battle, if you think about 4 times 3, right? And food for thought. What if you have Hunk on your front row, Cicero on your middle row, and Cicero is actually giving Hunk a whole load of evasion on top of his own evasion? That would really reduce the damage that he's taking, which would obviously have a much that will have a bigger impact on lessening the huge tallied amount that you take on turn 7. And actually on the front row you could be taking very little damage, and you could still have a high troop count. So something to think about. But the proof is in the pudding. Not a lot of people use Hunk and Cicero together. It's probably not. It's not a top combination. Again, this is a combat skill. It can be stopped easily, but in theory, you can be giving a lot of evasion with this ability, with that skill. All right, next up is Army Breaker. So we see Army Breaker a lot in these videos, and it's because he just does so many different things with his skills. So his ape skill, Formation Enigma, it's a combat skill. So again, it's susceptible to being stopped, and it's only 30% chance. That's the bad bits. To make all friendly squads have 60%. I don't know why they multi-layer this. They might as well just call it like whatever it would be, 18% chance, right? To make all friendly squads have 60% chance of entering evasion status when taking the next 3 damages. So each time this activates, you're potentially giving yourself up to 9 elements of evasion. How often you see all of that activate? It's not going to be 9. It's not. But something to think about. Food for thought for those of you that might not have a Lawman yet or a Windwalker. Like for instance, I used a combination of Warlord, Army Breaker, and Avalanche, because Warlord's ape skill triggers another hero's ape skill on turns 1, 3, 5, and 7. If you trigger Formation Enigma 4 times in a battle, you can be getting potentially up to 36 instances of evasion. Now that would be if by some miracle every single element was actually ended up being 100%. It's not. It's 60% chance. But again, chances, it still means it can happen. But even so, you have the potential in that combination, at least, for a lot of evasion to happen. And again, I like the fact with Army Breaker that this is covering all 8 turns of the battle. He's the only hero that's going to cover all squads, potentially allow all squads in your formation to dodge, which again, that could actually tally up to being an awfully lot amount of damage that you're dodging. So that's why I kind of, from the heroes that have this description in their skills, this is why I do rate Army Breaker probably the highest for the dodge ability. Now there is another hero that will have dodge in his abilities, and we don't have him yet. If those of you have seen the hero combination sheet, it's the hero Shadow. We're going to get him probably at the end of June, and he will be a archer hero, probably a front row archer hero. From players who are using him in Last Shelter Survival, he doesn't have a very good reputation, but his second skill is an evasion skill, and it kind of tallies. So each time he takes damage, you have a higher percentage chance of avoiding that damage. I think it starts at 0 and then it goes 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. So every 5 times you take damage, on the 5th turn, you're guaranteed to evade it. How good that is in practice, I'm not sure, but we're going to be getting him anyway. So that'll be another hero in the game in 3 months' time that does have evasion. Now, the hero that I want to talk about, who in my mind I actually think is the best at this skill, is Spectral Reaper. Now, Spectral Reaper does not have the words evasion or dodge in his skill descriptions. He doesn't actually dodge anyway in a battle, not unless he was paired with one of those other heroes in a mixed legion, or like with Cincinnati, for instance. But his ape skill this squad is considered to be +1 range away. Well, that means that he's, in theory, he's he's +6 away from the opponent's back row, +5 from the middle row, etc. So he is actually, this skill is allowing him to evade damage. It just doesn't say it, right? And that is why I think actually this is a status skill. It's applicable all the time, and you'll see multiple instances where Spectral Reaper is just not being touched at all for multiple rounds in a battle, depending on the combinations he's against. Now, something to consider about Dodge is that it's not applicable for counter attacks, and it doesn't apply to CCing, for instance. So your heroes can be crowd controlled, like suppressed, silenced, etc. And if you're up against a hero who's got like a counter attack skill, like a Peacebringer or Lawman, for instance, or Beast Queen, those attacks will still are guaranteed attacks on the heroes that have dodge. But Spectral Reaper, he is protecting himself from everything else, unless the only way that you're going to hit him is, again, if you've got heroes that are counter attacking, or if you've got heroes that are who are basically range 5 heroes who are on your middle row. So I know a lot of people do put Avalanche on their middle rows, they do put the Immortal on their middle rows. That does mean Spectral Reaper's susceptible. I'm not saying it's guaranteed all of the time. You can work around it, but there are so many scenarios where he's not being touched at all. I just want to kind of quickly look at a video just to show Dodge in action, and also Spectral Reaper's evasion as well happening at the same time. So I was up against V earlier today in duels, and V did beat me, but I've got Spectral Reaper in my legion. He had Warlord in his legion, so it does work well. Let's just speed up through these status and prep skills. There we go. So we're into turn 1. So of course this is where Warlord's dodging evasion is going to be taking place, turns 1 and 2. So he did take that basic attack there, and he took that skill attack. So this is the thing with him, it's not consistent. But there you go, he dodges that basic attack. And he dodges the Jubaku, and then he dodges another basic attack. So 3 elements of dodge there for Warlord, which is probably saving him a good like 20,000 kills, particularly as like one of those dodges was from Reaper's basic attack. But then, as you can see, on turn 2, he didn't dodge at all. So even though it's at such a high percentage chance of 70%. So that's why, again, you can't rely on it as a defensive mechanism. Now, I'm just going to speed up the battle all the way through. Now, with this combination, you see Roku's range is 4, and Avalanche's does have a range of 5. But up until this point, up until the first half of the battle, you can see Spectral Reaper was not even touched. Still full troop count, because he just can't be reached. Now, the problem with this is that you are concentrating all of the damage onto the front and middle rows. And you can see that even though I had a Mortal Guardian who does have a very good defensive combination for an archer hero, he was already lost in the battle. So it swings and roundabouts for Spectral Reaper. If you can put him in a combination where you're doing so much damage to the opponent, like if you're pairing him with Defender or Sakura in that mixed combinations with Rosen, for instance, or when we get the Warden next week, the Warden's going to increase the amount of damage he does, then that's going to be some really good combinations to potentially take out the opponent quickly anyway, before your front rows of your archers collapse. But that is why that's a kind of really good example in that video where, like, this whole process of evasion and dodge, it's not I'd say the top method of protection or tankiness. Like, you just want to have extra HP stats, you want to have extra resistance, you want to have decent healing. I think that has a bigger impact than dodge in a battle, but there you go. All right, that is everything for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do click on that like, and I would be interested to hear your comments on dodge and how your experiences are of it in the game. do you have some combinations that I haven't discussed in this video that you think are working really well for you? Please do pop them in the comment section below. And if you could please share this video and my channel in your alliance chat, province chat, and through Line, WhatsApp, Viber, Discord, whatever you use to communicate with your fellow players in the game, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.